part 9 from my Etudes for Double Bass Drumming book. This is a really interesting one. So you basically have a double beat pattern that starts on an E. So it goes E and you're starting with your left foot because, like I said in an earlier video, I'm a big fan of putting the E's and the U's on the left so that the ands and the downbeats, or the ones and the twos and the threes and the fours, the beats, have the right foot on it. So with something like this where you just have 2 notes, and I should have mentioned this in an earlier video, but I'll just do it now. You could totally play this with 1 foot. But why do we play double bass drum? Part of the reason is to be able to play faster rhythms more comfortably, but also more accurately and stronger because you have 2 limbs that you're working with instead of just 1. This improves your sound quality as well. And so let's talk about, I don't really need to talk about this anymore. Go through the variations and then work on the practice video, okay? But let's talk about double bass drumming for a minute. Now I'm using a double pedal here. A double pedal simply allows you to play 1 drum with 2 beaters coming off of 1 pedal. Some double bass drum pedals are just horrible and they're not comfortable to use at all. Other ones are very comfortable to use, and I'm telling you, you don't have to spend $600 or more on a really nice double bass pedal. Like this DW5000 one was super expensive when I bought it maybe 16 years ago or something. I've had this for a very long time. But I've also had some very inexpensive Gibraltar pedals that maybe I paid a couple $100 for that I feel like work just as well. And that's no knock to DW. I do like these pedals. I've just used other pedals too that I was comfortable with. And I've used a bunch of things in between. I'm not really a big fan of pedals like the Iron Cobra. And I mean, particularly pedals like that that have all these extra adjustments and crazy things you can adjust. I don't really feel like by adjusting all that stuff, you're improving your double bass drum playing. I feel like you ought to be able to play any bass drum pedal just like you do with 1 foot, with the 2. And one of the things that people have a problem with is balancing on your seat. So we'll talk about that now. I probably should have talked about it in the first video, but haha, now you have some experience. So when you lift your legs up and you have to play with your 2 feet, your body wants to lean forward and fall forward. So how do you figure that out? How do you work that out? Well, you could lean back and then lift your legs up, but now that's super uncomfortable. The best thing you can do is to make sure that you're sitting up straight and that your pelvis is not doing this. You want your pelvis to be sitting up, and that puts your actual butt bone on the seat. So now you're squaring up essentially your butt with the seat, and you're using your butt to bounce. And so from there, I can keep my upper body fairly still. I can move my legs freely and not worrying about falling over. And literally, like if I held my feet up there, I am forward heavy. But from this position, I can use either thing or have them up in the air together, and I don't lean forward. I don't fall forward. And that's one of the things that we have to deal with. Another issue is how high do you want your seat? Because I feel like when you're playing double bass, your seat height almost kind of matters a lot more because you're not planting your left foot on the ground while you're drumming to balance yourself. All right, so how high do you want to be? That's really up to you, but let's talk about some advantages and disadvantages. In general, I do kind of like this position because I can use the weight of my leg to help me put power into my bass drum notes. Or on the floor like this, and I know you can hear that. It's because I can lift my leg up and use the weight of it. I'm still using my ankle and my leg together. So, in other terms, it's a heel up playing, but I still use my ankle, okay? Particularly for faster notes, okay? Now, if I were sitting up higher, what that would do is leave my legs dangling down. And from that position, to really get any power out of anything, you got to lift your legs up more, because like remember, they're going to be dangling down. So you're kind of just sort of left to your ankles. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you might lose some power, and if your ankles aren't great, like my ankles aren't very great, that could be difficult for you to learn to play really well in that way. Now, what about being short? I think it's stupid. Like, once you get your leg to this position, I think that's stupid. I just would never advocate that for any reason. I think your leg should always be either at a 90-degree angle or more. And then the rest of it's sort of subjective as to what you're comfortable with. So experiment with different things. Try out different seats. For double bass drum playing, I do particularly like the bike seat or the motorcycle seat look. It gives these cuts here allow my legs to move around more freely. I also like seats where everything is tight except for right at the base of the seat. I loosen that little thing so that it'll swivel some, so I got some movement when I play. I prefer that personally. If you don't prefer that, that's okay. So just experiment with different seats, different heights, different pedals. One last thing is, why would I use a double bass pedal on one drum instead of two separate pedals on two different bass drums? Well, if you're using a double pedal on one drum, you only have that one drum to tune. So whether you hit it with the right beater or the left beater, it's going to be the same drum that you're hitting. It's going to have the same pitch. Sometimes, though, it's difficult to get those two beaters right in the middle of that drum, so they might hang to the left or to the right a little bit. And you should know that by doing that, you're not hitting the same quality, sound quality spot on the head each time, so that could be a liability. Another thing that could be a liability is sometimes when you play faster notes on one bass drum, there's kind of a slap back effect on the drum head, and it doesn't sound as open. It sounds a little choked. Now, there are things you can do to tune your drum up to kind of work with that a little bit, but usually just involves muffling your drum a whole lot. Now, if I have to play with one bass drum, I will. Most people don't notice. But if I'm playing a lot of double bass drum stuff, I do prefer to play on two bass drums. It's a lot opener, more open. The feel of it, you don't get that slap back sound, and generally it's just louder and more powerful, and usually double bass drumming is kind of that way because it's associated with rock and metal and all that kind of stuff. But here's where it's tough, is your bass drums are going to be very difficult to tune so they sound the same. Very difficult. And I've actually gotten to a point now where I kind of don't even want them the same anymore. I like that sound quality of having two different sounding bass drums. It's not because I want them to sound different. It's just when you're doing like bass drum rolls where you're just playing continuous 30-second notes or whatever, it just sounds fuller. And I like that a lot. It's pretty cool, like the two different pitches. But I do try to tune them as close as I can. It's just really hard to get them exactly the same. And if you have any other questions, feel free to get in touch with me, and be sure to look at the training videos for all 9 of these sections where we work on together, doing it slow, medium, and fast tempos so that we can work on your double bass playing. Thanks.